to, what is this, the 5th episode now? The 5th episode of Onion Skins. Yay, hold for applause, yay. Yeah, we've really enjoyed making this podcast so far, and we delight in bringing you new and exciting guests in the world of animation, people who work there, love it as much as we do, and we have a really special guest today, Mr. Caleb Fietsam, yay! I don't know why I'm applauding so much, but he's a voice actor extraordinaire, multi-talented. This is in my notes that Caleb sent. He really wanted us to make sure that everybody knew how talented he was. But he has probably like the longest list of any sort of credits in CalArts animated films that I've ever seen, but it's super common to see him in our films. Such titles such as Mr. Carefree Butterfly, Everything is Fine, Barry, and my personal favorite is your performance as the Rat Mayor in Matt Herring's film Paper Trail. I thought that was really great. This is sort of another new announcement, but we have a new crew member, Anya. Anya has been working on our podcast since episode 3. She co-edits and works as a coordinator and produces alongside of Will. So welcome, Anya. But yes, new guest, Caleb, who does a lot of voice acting and actual live action and film. Is that right? Like, that's the kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I just wanted to start off by, I guess, talking about your journey from when you first thought you wanted to become an actor to going to school to sort of where you are now, if you wouldn't mind taking us on that journey.
Absolutely. I think it was like around 7th grade when I got interested in performance. I was actually when I was really young, I wanted to make video games. That was like my passion. And then I saw, I saw Ace Ventura with Jim Carrey. And there was something about that performance. I was like, I want to do that. And then that was kind of like, then I was just starting to audition for school shows. And I did theater all throughout high school. I did like a lot of musicals, that kind of stuff. I got to do some like straight plays, no music as well, but I did that most of my kind of like teenage years. I say that like I'm really old. And then around senior year, I was working with an acting studio outside of high school, and my teacher, my acting coach, she had gone to CalArts for dance like way back in the day. So she was the one that pointed me towards it. I was really dead set on going to NYU. And then I did a summer program there. And then I was kind of like, all right, that's all I needed. Like, I was like, that's good enough. I don't need to do this anymore. So I was really interested in CalArts. And then I went out to California. I'm from Chicago, outside of Chicago originally. And then when I traveled to California to visit schools, I took a tour of CalArts. And I just kind of fell in love. Like, this is it. I have to go here. And I didn't audition for very many schools. CalArts was the only one I really cared about. And it was the first one I heard back from. So I was like, I'm going. Like, I don't need to hear back from anything else.
Well, what was it, I guess, specifically about CalArts that really drew you to that specific venue?
The tour was the nail, like the final nail in the coffin. Because it was we saw like the mod theater. Like, so that by itself, because I was just very acting minded, was the fact that the stage could turn into anything. Like, there were just so many possibilities of like what could be done. This can be whatever you want it to be, which is why I like animation a lot, because there's so much room for creating a different world. And I was lucky, like being able to be in a couple shows in the modular theater and in like bigger spaces. It was amazing to see kind of like how they would transform the space into these like crazy different environments. My sophomore year was in the modular theater, and it was just this like dirt. It was like a stage, a matte stage, and then just dirt underneath it. And we had to sing. That was one thing I was like, I'm not going to have to do musicals anymore. And then I get to CalArts, and almost every show I was in required singing. And I was like, they were like, we're not a musical theater program. And I'm like, then why are we doing so much music? But I like to sing, so I don't mind.
Yeah, I caught some of your singing on your Instagram. I have to do a little bit of preemptive stalking. You have a very good voice. You're a very good singer.
I appreciate it. Well, that was actually on the Facebook page for like accepted students for my year. Anatola posted about their game on Steam, Maggie's Apartment. And that was kind of the first project I got to work on. And I was the voice of Randy Rosebud. So I got to do a lot of singing. I sang a lot of the songs that they wrote. That was really, really cool. I was like looking back at that. I was like trying to remind myself what I did for this podcast. I was like, what have I done?
Did you come into CalArts with like the idea that you wanted to do voice acting? I mean, because you have such a prolific list of things that you were in as far as student films for the character animation department goes, that it's hard to kind of ignore that. But is that something you kind of came in knowing you wanted to do, or is it something you sort of developed along the way?
It was something that was developed. I think I had heard about it. Like I had a teacher, one of our voice teachers, like brought that up when I was on Accepted Students Day. Like they talked about it. Like they were like, yeah, you can, like there are posters and you can audition for animations and stuff as well. And I think it wasn't like a priority for me. I don't think I auditioned for anything really freshman year. And then sophomore year, I had more time. I found myself like auditioning more. Junior and senior year were like BFA 3, BFA 4. That was when I was like, yeah, no, I'm doing this. The acting program and like the shows that we would do, it was a little bit of a weird system. So I think for me, I found a lot of comfort in the work. And I kind of like found shelter in the animation school because I was like, I think I just like this more because I've always loved animation. I always have. I've always loved drawing. I never really trained in it. I don't want to like make it sound like I know the other side of it, the non-acting side. I was so grateful to be able to kind of like be a part of it, be a part of something I loved in the way that I could.
So you mentioned that you do drawing, and I think that's really cool. I think it's like super important for artists of all sorts of disciplines to have another discipline for their creativity. I guess, was that sort of a natural outpouring of you having been a part of animation, or is it something that you felt like you wanted to develop because you were working on so many animated films?
I think it was something that like existed within me since I was a kid, because I would always just doodle on my homework and stuff like that. And then I think the more and more I got involved in the animation program and like working with people, the more I was able to kind of like pick things up and kind of learn by osmosis. I just got to learn a lot. Like Maya Burnett was really kind to me and like letting me come to some talks. Like I saw the Alex Hirsch talk. I felt very like lucky to be able to kind of like sit in on classes. I took Flash with Maya, which was really fun. I feel like she like allowed me to like enter this school when I was just like, I'm an actor. I just want to get out of the acting program. I feel like I learned a lot just from being around it. It was really fun to voice act on so many things, but it was really fun too to kind of just work with my friends. Like I worked with Kai and Mike Sobieski. I wasn't in their films, but I worked with them on the script and like physicality and line readings and stuff to try and capture emotions and have that translate over to other characters and other actors, or kind of help flesh out ideas like that for me. I wasn't educated in it, but I feel like just from being around it and kind of absorbing content, so much content, I am able to see, like I have an eye for it. It's not professional in the least bit. The things I've picked up from like working with different people, I find that I've definitely gotten better purely just by being around the insanely talented people at CalArts.
I feel like I've always hoped that by being around actors, like my background is in live action film, and I was hoping that by being surrounded by actors, I would gain some acting chops. But I feel like when you're acting, there's like, you kind of have to flail around publicly for a little bit. Like you kind of have to fail a lot in front of people. And whereas I feel like with a lot of times with art, you can kind of just fail privately. So yeah, that's something I've always felt kind of envious of, is like, I just can't get over the putting my whole heart out there. So I've always admired the actors just for that. But yeah, I think I wanted to talk a little bit about process. I think that we have one voice actor who comes into the character animation department. I'm not going to say his name because he might come after us legally. He seems a little vindictive. Oh. But you might know who I'm talking about, but I'm not here to... A
student or a person?
It's like a professional guy.
Oh, okay.
But he comes into our class and gives us one lesson in directing actors and the process what an actor has to sort of go through in order to exude the role that they're portraying. And there's not a lot of room for good questions, a lot of us are just too scared to ask him questions. So yeah, I think I was just gonna sort of take this opportunity to kind of relish in that and kind of ask you some questions that probably maybe seem dumb, but for me and a lot of other animators and filmmakers, it's kind of it's good information to know, as a lot of animators aren't particularly gifted directors, which I talked about last episode. With that being said, I kind of wanted to start off with, like, what is the initial process from you getting a script to turning that into a voice character, a character that lives and breathes?
I think I've heard about this person. I'd never heard a name, but I think that it's so different for at least my process. Like, everybody that I work with is so different in their process that, like, for me, my personal belief is, like, the actor should adapt to the project. And I don't think there's one way to deal with an actor. I think that's a kind of, like, egocentric actor, which is very stereotypical of actors, way of thinking about it. Like, oh, you have to talk to the actor trademark this way. Like with Carefree Butterfly, for example, I almost didn't even audition for Carefree Butterfly, because I remember looking at the poster and kind of, like, thinking I didn't really fit for it. And then my friend, who was friends with Jonathan, emailed a bunch of actors and was like, hey, we need people to audition, and you were people that I thought of. So then I reached out from there, and Jonathan had me not read anything off of a script, but, like, tell him a story from, like, and I think I told him I just wrote a paper about St. Patrick's Day, and I just told him about that, all the information that I'd learned about St. Patrick's Day. And then the process was a lot of improvising and a lot of me and Ryan Masson, who was the other actor, just kind of in Jonathan's apartment, going through a gist of the scene that Jonathan had told us and kind of making it up. I'm always really caught by the art. Like, if I see a poster and I really like the style, I'm like, yeah, I want to audition for that. And then I send the email and I'm just like, here's a sample of my voice. Like, this is kind of what I sound like, but I am happy to do, whatever to help the decision. Then, like, if I get a script back, it's kind of just like, I just kind of say the words, I see how they feel. I try to find, like, a way that feels like it's genuinely me. I never take it personally if I don't get selected. I think I auditioned for yours, Peter.
Oh God, this is awkward.
The free fall. It's great. It's beautiful. And I was jealous because I wanted to be in it because I liked it so much. Because I've had people that I've auditioned for and I've, like, gone to an audition and met with them, and then they say no, and then they, like, don't look at me in the hallway, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not holding it against you. Like, most of an actor's career is being told no. But I think for me, it's just so different. Like, everybody is so different. Like, I go into the process and Mike Sobieski, Lee Witz, Basin, they want to do the line over and over again so we get it exactly right. Whereas, like, Jagger and Jonathan, and those are the only examples coming to my mind, like, that was a lot of improvising. That's a lot of, like, let's go through it, let's break from the script, kind of just see what we do. And I don't feel like there's a right way and a wrong way, because, like, I see my job as, like, I want to help make this vision, your vision, as accurate to what is in your mind as possible. So I see it as my duty to adapt to kind of the project.
I guess between those two, I mean, is there something that you feel like you personally respond to better? Or I know you said that you can adapt to either, but is there one way that feels more organic to you, or, like, feels like this is the way that I feel like I'm able to produce my best work?
I really do enjoy improvising. Even if it's just an exercise, it does not have to be like the final product is completely off script. I think a great way to help people get into character, like, if you, like, let's say you're working with an actor or a group of actors, allowing people to improvise or kind of instructing them to, and kind of giving them that space to put the character on in their own way, is a great way to kind of help the actor feel more comfortable in the role and feel like the role is more closer to their core. At least that's what I also did. Like, I did a bunch of Second City training. Like, I did a lot of improv training, so that's kind of my background. Whereas I know some actors are a lot more like, oh, I'm happy to do it by the book. Like I want to do word for word. But I definitely resonate more with, like, I do in the booth. You can ask anybody that's seen me in the booth. Like, I'm very like weird. I'm making like weird gestures that I would not make on a live camera shoot, just to kind of like fit the character and get that emotion. My whole body kind of just goes into the voice to try and get that performance to be as good as I can. So I love improvising in characters. I love filling in kind of the space outside the lines to make this kind of like a fully fleshed out little character.
I think it's so interesting that, like, when you talk about, you know, the balance, I guess, between imparting, I guess, your own vision and like what the director wants. And it feels like a lot of times, like, people seek you out for your ability to seem very genuine and the kind of energy that you bring in your life normally, I guess, to a production. So do you think that it's sort of valuable for you as an actor, or for people as actors, to sort of have their independent voices outside of a project, I guess? Because I know that, like, it's a highly debated topic even for animators. Like, how do you brand yourself? You know, how do you is it important to be adaptable or to be individualistic? And I imagine that's something that probably every sort of artistic discipline has to wrestle with at some point.
In terms of like being adaptable versus being individualistic, it's like every role, like we did Hamlet, and you know, whoever does Hamlet, it's the same role, but even if two people did it, like made the exact same choices, it would still be different just because they are different people. If you're picking an actor, like, you're getting them. I had a few times, like, Jagger reached out to me for the Tony mix, like he wanted my voice. Like with Jonathan's, like I didn't put any, like that was the Jonathan was the reason I got a lot of work. I can point to that and be like, yeah, that was me, and people were like, all right, cool, you know what you're doing. And that's just because Jonathan provided that space for me to shine. But like that was me. Like he filmed us talking in his apartment, and some of the gestures that the character do, like those are gestures that I did. It's a little bit of both. You have to find this kind of balance of like, you are just an individual. That's hard to accept. That's really hard. It's really hard for me to accept that I'm, especially like trying to be an actor. Like they have so many white guys. Like we are not a rare commodity. So like I'm trying to be an actor, and there's a billion other people that look exactly like me. So I have to kind of just hold on to my the little individuality that I feel like I have. You have to like adapt to the script. You have to adapt to how the director sees it, and trying to capture their vision while also kind of just doing the performance that you can do. That's one of the things that, like, a lot of the times when I was first auditioning, I was kind of putting on voices. Like I was kind of doing like more cartoony voices. And I don't remember. Oh no, it was Daniel. He did Evolve Me, and I auditioned for his film, and I did like, I kind of put on a voice, and he was like, just do your normal voice. And I was like, oh, I can do that. Like I can just do my normal voice. I don't have to make up for what I think I lack by just kind of being me. I was always really worried that people were going to get really sick of my voice, because I felt like I sounded the same in a lot of different projects. And that's just my own self-consciousness. But I was really worried about that. I was like, do I sound the same in Carefree Butterfly as, like, do I sound the same in another one? Do I sound the same in another one? Like, despite not changing my voice too much, the rat was, I was so happy. I was like, please let me do a Boston accent. I was like, please let me do a Boston accent. And he was so nice. Matt was very kind. I didn't know if he was humoring me or if he actually wanted it, or because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I think the biggest thing, I know I'm rambling a lot, but the biggest thing that I was able to take away from that was like I'm bringing myself to this. I'm adapting emotionally. I bring a genuineness to the character, but part of that genuineness is that my individuality is just present in the fact that I am an individual. I just felt really relaxed in the booth, like, because it's either just you, or it's like you and two other people, and it doesn't matter what you look like. which acting is a very looks heavy profession, which is just, it's very stressful. Like you get self-conscious about like not being the most muscular, or not, you know, you have to be like this, or you have to look a certain way, not to mention all the issues with a lack of diversity in television and that kind of stuff. Like it's just a whole like the acting profession is just, I love it, but I don't know how I ended up in this, because it's like, it's stressful, man. It's stressful. So I always loved voice acting because it was like I didn't have to worry about what I looked like. I'd never had to stress about that. All I had to do was focus on bringing an entirely separate character to life. And then it's like I feel like I'm the parent, like me and the animator are parents. Like we made this little child that exists on its own, like it's separate from me. Yeah. Or I can feel an attachment to it, but I'm not like, oh, that's me. It's like I helped create this entirely separate being. I don't know, like I just kind of do my thing, and I do it until the person on the other side of the booth is happy with it, and then they work their magic. I can't imagine listening to myself the way that they have listened to me. Like like animating to my voice, like it would drive me crazy to hear myself like that.
I mean, I think you touched on something with like getting into the booth and like the sort of comfortability that you have with that. It's not something that comes naturally to me or a lot of animators, though I think that they make us take an acting for animators class for a reason. I think it's pretty vitally important for us as animators to have that sort of base of knowledge to draw on, not only for how you animate a character, but like the how to guide your actors into getting that kind of performance. This year I did like 5 different sessions with my friends in the booth, because it was just all my friends were, I guess, too lazy to put up a casting call. But that was really cool. I'm sure none of it's going to get made because of the pandemic, but I felt like I learned a lot through that experience, and I think it's really important for a lot of different people in the production pipeline to have that sort of experience. I think this is a good time to take a break and hear from our sponsor. Wow, look at that natural progression, natural transition. Wow, look at me. Yeah, we're sponsored now, guys. We are sponsored by Anchor. Anchor, if you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Doesn't get any cheaper than that. And there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. That's actually how you're listening to our podcast on Spotify, if you are. Anchor has been so gracious as to allow us to be on Spotify. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you're considering making a podcast, please download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, that is anchor.fm. Thank you, Anchor. How was that? How were my acting chops there?
I dug it.
Oh, okay, cool.
I would download Anchor.
Awesome. I think it's hard when you're reading an ad to like not lean on like the way everybody reads ads and podcasts. Like everybody has like a very similar cadence, and I kind of hate myself whenever I hear it back. But
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's funny. So. Like I hear like I've been listening to like Conan O'Brien's podcast, and it's the same thing. Again, he's like a TV personality that's been doing it for years, and it's like you can't escape that.
Yeah.
That like advertisement cadence.
This is sort of like I guess a tangential question, but like, and not very it's not very complicated of a question, but do you still get freaked out when you're performing? I mean, outside of the booth, I guess. Like, is it still something that shakes you a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever not be freaked out. Even like as comfortable as I am in the booth, like I just care a lot. Like I just care a lot about performing well, and sometimes that can get in the way. And even when you're like relaxed, quote unquote, you're still like, it's still this kind of like little, I just have this like underlying generator hum of anxiety that I feel like kind of fuels, at least in live performances. The live performances that I feel like I've performed the best, I barely remember, because when you are in a like that, at least with live performance, like on a high stakes, like the stakes just get so high, and you kind of get into this like dual mode of thinking. Like you're just thinking as the character, you're also thinking of like, I need to stand here, or like I need to know what my line is, but I also need it to be genuine and new in the moment. Like you kind of enter this like weird space where where you're kind of just like driving the car. But I don't know, I just like, I audition, like I send out self-tapes and stuff, and I'm always like, please, oh Jesus Christ, like I want to do it over and over again. I want to like fix it, nitpick it. Like I don't think there'll ever be like a moment where I'm like, yeah, I got this. Oh, I got it in the bag. In the booth, sometimes like I felt, I definitely like try to incorporate that, because I also like want to like it. The hard thing about like acting for so long, and I really like in high school, like it would be, I would go to school, and after school, like I'd go to a rehearsal for a show, and then after that rehearsal I'd go to another rehearsal for a different thing. And I think that for a long time, like just doing that so much, it's hard not to feel like everything is a performance. So when you're kind of doing that, you just think about the audience a lot, which is not I don't recommend that, doing that in your daily life, because you just start to care about what other people think way too much. I still do, like which is it's more of a hindrance than a help. But on stage, it's like all of my anxiety that causes me so much torture in my daily life, on stage is extremely helpful. Like I'm able to, I feel like, weaponize it as a tool to kind of like fuel the emotions of my character. And I think that's why a lot of the characters I got picked for, a lot of like it's a lot of this. It's a lot of like I like a lot of stammering, a lot of like high energy stuff, because that does come very naturally to me. And I definitely still get nervous. Short answer. I gave you like a super long answer, but the short answer is yes, I do get nervous.
No, that was super helpful. So I guess you talked about like being high energy and how that comes really naturally for you. Has there ever been like a time where somebody's giving you some, I mean, obviously you've had to do like some more somber moments even like in Mr. Carefree Butterfly, there were some more somber moments in there that weren't high energy. I guess that it doesn't come as naturally to you, but like how do you, I guess, transition or put yourself in a place, or what sort of direction gets you to being in that place where you can give that performance?
Yeah, I mean, with like Everything Is Fine, like that was challenging for me. And I don't know if Jay knows that, but because he was great, he was an awesome director. But I think shorter lines that are more somber, for some reason I always feel like I'm not doing them well. Like with Jonathan, like it was the core, it was like, because it was so based on what we had created with him, and also it was like this arc of like high energy. Like by the time we got to those lines, I was low energy. Like I physically was low energy, just because we were going in that one. And with Everything Is Fine, like because it was somber from the get-go, and the lines were like it's like, no, everything is fine. I definitely like I judge myself in not like, I'm like, am I being genuine? Does that sound genuine? And Jay's like, I love it, you're amazing. And I'm like, am I? Just because it is a little bit of a harder place for me. And I think that just goes back to like my childhood and not being taught how to like express more somber emotions. But yeah, I would say like it's different when it's like, oh no, the first oh god, Play Ball, Jackie Files. Her little, the dog baseball one. Like,
Yeah.
I was like the friend. Those lines were really short, and they were just very like plain spoken. And I was like, I struggle with that because I'm like, I need to do so much. Like, I need to do more. I need to be entertaining. Whereas like it's okay to be chill and to just like say it. Like, just say the line. Just like let it come out. Don't push it. Don't like force it. Don't try to sound somber. Like, really try and get into that mindset. Really try to kind of get that. It's it's definitely interesting because like I've definitely worried people before because like sometimes to get into that place, like I'll put myself in a really, really bad place. Like, I'll kind of like force myself to go to this really dark emotional place, and then I'll kind of come back out of it halfway to kind of get to the sweet spot of where it needs to be. So like for about like a minute, I look like I'm really, really sad because I'm like I'm like thinking of all these really sad things to try and like get myself into that mindset. And then like I'm like, okay, it's not that sad. Like, you don't want to overdo it. It's this the acting is just finding this like middle. It's like this middle ground that's always moving. So I feel like I'm always trying to like grab onto it for as long as I can.
I think you talked about something interesting that I hadn't really even considered. I don't know why. I guess I never made this connection, but I guess like sort of how your experience in life or your formative years, as what you sort of learned from your parents or those around you about how to express yourself, and I guess how that impacts you as an actor. Because I mean, I'm not a very good liar. I don't know how to just be chill. Like, I don't know how to like, I don't know, access some emotion that I'm not had the ability to sort of flex. And I mean, I guess you sort of talked about like sadness or being like that somber aspect of you. Like, I it's not something that was ever tolerated in my house, like the outwardly expressing your sadness. Is that something that I think that affects you or actors at large, I guess, like just sort of those formative years and how you learn to engage with your emotions in that way?
Yeah, I think like there's this romanticization, if that is a word, of transformative acting, like method acting, method quote unquote, which is like the Christian Bale getting super fucking skinny, or what's the more recent example, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Yes, physically, like there's a mindset that like physically putting yourself in a state is all you need, but I really think that being introspection and kind of trying to understand yourself better is a really, really good way to develop acting skills. And I think that, at least for me, acting was the outlet. Acting was the chance I got to, because I was always like, I was a very emotional person, but when I was younger, I didn't know how to express it. So I was very like, my parents were very supportive and loving, but I just never learned how to talk about what I was feeling. It was more of just like, I need to give you this feeling as well so you understand it. I don't know how to explain it. So I think definitely the more I kind of looked inward, which I still am, it's not like a process that really ever stops, I don't think, but definitely like I felt like as I in all the stuff that I was doing at Cal Arts, like I felt like the more and more I was kind of just me, like bringing myself to it, like the less and less I was trying to be a different character, the more I was growing as an actor. And I what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, I give credit to some of the teachers that I had, like Daniel Passer, who taught us Shakespeare, because we did Shakespeare all throughout second year, where I got like Shakespeare is very specific, but the lead clown at Cirque du Soleil for a really long time. He did a lot of like Commedia dell'arte. So his take was very different, and I kind of got to go into something that has such a strong form and kind of mess with it, and kind of like find a way to stretch my limbs within a relatively restricted art form. So I feel like A lot of older actors like that are more professionally working that I've spoken to, a common piece of advice that I hear is like go and have experiences.
Yeah.
Go and like live your life, because that will make you a stronger actor. Like I've been very lucky to have traveled a lot and to have had a lot of different experiences. And I think that like for me, seeing other people and watching television and seeing other actors do stuff and watching reality TV and seeing people be real, quote unquote, like witnessing other people deal with emotions was kind of how I was able to then channel it rather than from my own personal experience. But now I feel a bit more like it's coming from me a little bit more. I still learn a lot from watching a bunch of stuff, but that's just more I just like to intake information. I eat content like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Like I'm always watching Netflix. I'm always watching something. I'm always listening to something, because it's the more information you have, the more you can draw on. And I think that applies to any art form. Like I love playing music. I love drawing. I love doing a bunch of different stuff.
I think that's like super important. We talk about that, I think, in a couple of parts of different episodes of this podcast. And I just talk about it in my daily life, how like I applied to CalArts 3 times and I didn't get in until my 3rd time. And at that point I'd skipped a year of applying and I just finished out my degree, and I just spent some time like investing in like interests outside of drawing. It really enriched, I think, my ability to write, and it's only grown since I've been going to school here. Just because I have like an invested interest in other things like finding bones. That's like stupid stuff, like, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know, the art of restoring a knife, or like camping, or literally travel, or anything. I feel like that definitely, like what you said, like it definitely enriches the quality of whatever art that you're pouring yourself into ultimately. I think that's really important. Another thing that we, I guess, talk about a lot on this podcast is like limitations, like what you were talking about before, and how working within those ultimately, I guess, expands what you're able to do with in your case a performance. I know that like there are some people in that I know who record or direct for live action or for animation that they kind of just like turn it loose to the actors sometimes, or they won't really know exactly what they're looking for, so they'll just have them do it a bunch of times. And I think I don't know from experience necessarily, but I can imagine that like working under that would be kind of stressful because you don't have those limitations or those boundaries. I mean, is there any sort of experience that you have with, like, I guess, self-imposed limitations or limitations from a project that I guess feel beneficial ultimately to you?
Yeah, I resonate with what you're saying. Like a big challenge that some actors run into is if there isn't really specific direction, like a lack thereof. Now, of course, like really, really, really specific direction can also be a hindrance, but even that, I'd say like my advice to anybody trying to talk to an actor is like be as specific as you can, like be ridiculously specific, and then like go out from there. Then like loosen up from there. I think a lot of people are very kind and are like, yeah, you do it. But I definitely think like being like, yeah, I want it to be like this, or like I want it to sound like this. Like some people don't like to have lines read to them. Like if the director reads a line a certain way and wants them to say it this way. I like that. I like to hear that. I like to hear the voice that you hear in your head, which is another example of just like actors being different. I definitely like it, you do have to kind of create that yourself. I think because I come from an improv background, like I'm able to kind of regurgitate stuff, like if there's nothing there. But I don't think I've ever really actually run into that. The only time I've run into that are like live action directors. I don't run into that with animation as much, because I think it is a specific art form even when it's not. Like to me, everything's in animation seems so specific and thought out that I think that's why I like it, is because I like the structure that I get to witness. I'm trying to learn how to do it on my own, which is proving to be very, very challenging. So it's only increasing my admiration for the work that you guys do. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like having those limitations. I like I like having rules that I am allowed to break. Personally, I think that's really fun.
I imagine that like with live action film, like I think one of the big differences, and I guess I'd like to sort of, I guess, explore that a little bit with me, but the idea that you don't have to worry about marks or blocking or staging or the camera in animation, that you're able to just focus on how you are projecting or like internalizing a character and how that comes out of you. Yeah, I mean, is that something that you found to be, I guess, I don't know. I mean, is that something that you don't like about live action film, or is it something that, I don't know, it particularly draws you to animation, I guess, is more of the question.
It's like theater live theater is like your entire body is alive. Like you are in it, like you're barely even thinking, just because you have so much stuff to think about. That you kind of enter this, like, that state that I was talking about with on camera, like live acting. I prefer on camera stuff to theater, because I love, you get that kind of same aliveness, but you get to be so subtle with it that that's a really fun challenge to me, is to like the very like little movements, like an eye twitch here or a short breath there. Like, it's very small, but on camera it can be used so well to show emotion without forcing it. And then, but you still have that kind of like full, like, electric sensation, like where you're all like, you're thinking of like how to fit in the camera. Like, you want to make sure you don't go out of frame, and you need to make sure you don't hit the boom and you need to remember how you did it the last take so you don't mess up the continuity. I mean, but like, the thing that I love about voice acting is the fact that I get to use all of that and just like funnel it into the voice. Like, I get to use every tool that I have, and it all focuses on the voice, because it feels like I have a lot more confidence in that, because it's like one thing that I am trying to control, versus like the actor over there who's like needs to throw something at me and I need to dodge and roll and go off stage and say my line. And whereas like this, I can, in the booth, I'm saying a line over and over again, and I can like get it's not as, it's just so fun. Like, it's so fun to just be in there. And I remember like me and Daniel Straussman and Big Lou Johnson for Jagger's film, like, it's the three of us just yelling at each other, not doing, like, we're just standing behind mics and we're just like improvising the entire script, and there's just no fear of failure in the same way there is for a theater performance. Because like, there have been, messing up on stage is one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Oh my god. But the show always goes on, as corny as that is. Like, it really does. But it's so high stress. It activates my fight or flight response. So when I'm in the booth, I feel like safe. I feel like loved and confident, and like, it's just a safe place. Like, I went back to do Jagger's film this year, where I play him, which is, I've never had someone ask me to play themself. So I was nervous about that. I was like, Jagger, I hope you like this. He's always been so nice to me. And like, I went back into the booth, and I wasn't excited about being back on campus. I was like, I want to be, done with school, but I was excited to be back in the booth. Like, I love that booth, because my first time there wasn't even for animation. It was I went to the Fringe Festival my freshman year with Dead Awaken, which was a show that was like a musical concert. It was like a Erykah Badu-esque, like R&B. I don't know why I got cast in it. I'm so lucky. It was like me and a bunch of MFAs in Scotland performing this every day. But we recorded in there, and I was terrified for that. But then when I went back in for an animated film, it was like, it just became this really comfortable space that I just really enjoyed. And it's so spacious like that. It's just such a nice room. You just get to do so much random stuff.
Do you find that it's difficult for you to transition between, I imagine that when you were here and even, still like that, you're probably working on multiple projects that require different things of you, like working for live action film production versus theater, and then having to sort of migrate between them. Is that something that's ever difficult, or is there any sort of adjustment there when you're doing those things?
I think just because my mind has like 50 different TV screens on at the same time. I like compulsive multitasker to drown out the thoughts, my own voice in my head. It was like, no matter what was stressful to me, I had a lot of great teachers. I had met a lot of good friends in the theater program. It was very stressful, just in terms of like performance and like kind of like, what's the word? Like administrative kind of BS that would kind of mess with the experience of the performance. Like I always knew that like, oh, I get to go into the booth this week. Like I get to have a recording session like that. It was always kind of like, oh, I get to do this. Like I feel very lucky that this is going to make my day better. Looking forward to the open show, looking forward to the producer's show. That was always something that was only brought me excitement.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I'm so excited. Like, you guys, I'm so excited for the open show. And everyone's like, like deep in working on their film. And they're like, shh. They're like, please be quiet. And I'm like, I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Like a puppy. And I'm sitting at open show, like by myself, like just like, I feel like I'm just like this big beaming. It was just, it wasn't that hard just because I was always looking forward to it so much.
Yeah. I guess I also wanted to know, is there any sort of other, I guess, part along the filmmaking pipeline that you think you would ever want to explore or be a part of? This is just an example, but would you ever think about like directing? Is that something that's you ever thought about doing or thought about exploring?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have it's like my mind, I'm just like, I'm still developing my artistic abilities to kind of like portray the writing and the vision that I is created in my head. And I think working on that on my own and trying to kind of like tell these stories that I'm thinking of, like I take a lot of inspiration from the work that I've seen at CalArts and that I still see at CalArts. I love to be on the other side of things. I love to be the cameraman. It's a weird relationship because I really like to be behind the camera because I love really intentional shots. Like I really like Parasite was fucking killer. Atlanta, like anything Hiro, what's his name? Hiro Murai. Anything he does, I'm a big fan of just because it seems, and that's why I like animation so much. It seems so specific. Like things are not necessarily there without purpose. And like I love that. Like I want to do that. So like anytime I've worked on a project, I've always wanted to be behind the camera. I also want to be in front of the camera because I really like to have all the attention on me because I am an attention hog. But I'm also such a control freak that I want the shot to look exactly the way I want it to. It's like if I had to have a superpower, I would want to be able to clone myself so I could just do everything. Like I could have the whole set be, I could just, if that makes sense. Like I could be behind the camera, I could be in front of the camera, I could write the thing, I could direct it, I could. That would be a dream, to be able to just kind of like have myself be able to execute everything. And I'm like, I can do that. It's just a lot harder.
Yeah.
Like
it's
if I really put my mind to it.
I think that's like the most difficult thing to accept, and also the most beautiful part about working in film or working in animation is the fact that you have to collaborate with people. In some extent, I mean, oftentimes if you're working with the right people, it like ends up being way better than I guess you had initially thought. But in some of that, you lose a lot of the initial flavor that you came into a project with, which is one of the great paradoxes of film. But we are nearing the end here, and for the past few episodes, actually every episode, we've asked the person who we have on if there's any sort of thing that they want to plug, like a movie or video game or food or book, anything that like has gotten you excited recently or just ever, like anything that you like are super stoked about and you think anybody who's listening should listen to or consume.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been I'm not plugging this, but I've been watching Gotham, the weird Batman show. It's ridiculous. It's so funny to me. I really liked what's it called? Why am I forgetting it? Scissor 7 on Netflix. It's really, I love the art style. I think it's really creative. I think it's really funny. Yeah, I guess that would be the one, like that. Their season 2 just came out. It's a fun little watch. That, and then I've just been playing a lot of Animal Crossing. A lot of Animal Crossing, lot of Red Dead Redemption 2. I love those games. They've always I never will. I don't think I'll ever stop loving those games because they're basically the same game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is just Animal Crossing, but you have guns. Yeah. That's basically all I've been doing since quarantine started. I got Animal Crossing, and then most of my day is spent just like tending to my flowers and trying to get the kangaroos to leave my island. They won't. All right. There's 2 of them. They just will not leave.
Well, if you are one of the 5 or 10 people out in the world, including myself, who has not played Animal Crossing, or I guess I suggest you do that because everybody seems to be suggesting that I do that.
It's fun. It's good. It's cute. It's real cute. It's fun.
I've been falling asleep the past few nights to watching like silent playthroughs of the game because I don't own a Switch, but I like watching people play it silently. It seems like a very relaxing game at times, and other times very frustrating. But
oh yeah, very easy escapism in these trying times.
These trying times. God, if I have to hear that again. Where can people find you online, Caleb?
I am my Instagram, my like professional Instagram is at @VO_Caleb. I have a little website that I need to update because it kind of looks ugly. But that's calebfietsam.wixsite.com because I don't want to pay for the not Wixsite version of that. Because I am broke. But yeah, that's about it. My other Instagram is Fight Club, but it's more of my like random personal stuff. So yeah, I would say the VO Caleb is the one to all follow. Right, well, we'll for sure we'll be putting those in the show notes. Go follow him, go watch his recommendations, go watch Gotham, and play Animal Crossing, guys. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show. It's been really great to meet you and to be able to talk to you for so long. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah. We will see you guys with a brand spanking new episode next week. Bye. Bye.